Hello, everyone. This is Independent Conservative. I am Ryan Bowling. Thank you all for joining me once again. I want to dedicate this video to a actor that we all know has passed away, and we all know him, Carl Weathers, from the Rocky series. It's a sad, sad situation. I mean, he passed away at 76 years of age. I really personally like Carl Weathers as an actor and as an entertainer. And so I wanted to do this video kind of like to dedicate some time to a very successful African American actor. Since this is Black History Month, I wanted to talk a little bit about Carl Weathers. So let's get right into this article here I wanted to read from Breitbart News that speaks on this issue. I mean, this hurt a lot of people. In fact, I watched a video with Sylvester Stallone, and he was commemorating a lost friend in so many ways, in his word, about Carl Weathers, and he was pretty hurt about it. And he was in kind of almost in tears, contemplating all that Carl Weathers had contributed to himself personally, but also to the Rocky series. So let's get right into this. Carl Weathers, who immortalized the role of Apollo Creed opposite Sylvester Stallone in Rocky and 3 of his sequels, has died. He was 76. Weathers' family announced that the actor died Tuesday. No cause of death was given. We are deeply saddened to announce the passing of Carl Weathers, his family said in a statement sent to multiple news outlets. He died peacefully in his sleep on Thursday, February 1st, 2024. Carl was an exceptional human being who led an extraordinary life. Through his contributions to film, television, the arts, and sports, he has left an undeniable mark and is recognized worldwide and across generations. He was a beloved brother, father, grandfather, partner, and friend. Among his other notable screen roles were as Colonel Al Dillon opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator, and the voice of the military action figure Combat Carl in Toy Story 4. And I didn't know that because I didn't watch Toy Story 4. I think I only watched the first one. So I wasn't aware of that. With his muscular frame and imposing physicality, Carl Weathers cut an intimidating figure on movie screens, leading Hollywood to cast a former athlete in action roles. He was a star football player at San Diego State before launching a brief career in the NFL with the Oakland Raiders. Now, mind you, I didn't know anything about. I didn't know he was a football player. I didn't know anything about that. I just want to speak on, once I finished reading his article, I just want to speak on what he meant to me personally as a African American actor at the time that I began watching his films. He segued into acting in the early 70s and eventually landed the role of heavyweight boxing world champion Apollo Creed in the 1976 movie Rocky. Oh my God, I love those movies. As the movie's main antagonist, Weathers projected confidence and swagger in contrast to Sylvester Stallone's shy and mumbling Rocky Balboa. Their on-screen chemistry was formidable, culminating in the movie's grueling fight sequence in which both boxers are brutally pummeled over multiple rounds. Anyone that has ever seen any of the Rockies, Rocky 1 and 2, you know what I'm talking about. Wow. Apollo Creed was reportedly inspired by a host of famous boxers, including Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson, but Weathers made him a unique and complex movie character who became a household name as recognizable as Rocky Balboa. Weathers would reprise the role in Rocky 2, 3, and 4. Over the course of the movies, Apollo Creed evolved from Rocky's nemesis to close friend. And it's been debated as to whether Rocky 3 is better than Rocky 4, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. The legacy of Apollo Creed lives on in the Creed movies, with Michael B. Jordan playing his son. Weathers starred opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 1987 alien action movie Predator, another box office smash. Oh, that was awesome. That movie was awesome. The actor eventually got a chance to headline his own movie, Action Jackson, from 1988 2008, an action comedy that was a modest box office success, and I'm going to speak on that a little bit. Weathers played small roles in a handful of Adam Sandler movies, including Happy Gilmore. More recently, he had a recurring role in the Disney Plus Star Wars series, The Mandalorian. I think that's how you pronounce it. And that's the end of that article there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you all have heard about his passing. It was a shock to me when I heard it. And it's so crazy because every time I turn around, almost like every time I turn around, actors are dying, like left and right. I mean, I don't know if I could say that I remember it ever being like this before. Actors die all the time. But when I was in the 80s, I never remembered them dying as much. You know, even though we didn't have social media, we had TV, you know what I mean? But it was like still, it was like, man, lives look like every time you turn around, some actor is dying. You know, it's like, what's going on here? But anyway, that's a whole nother story, and I digress. Yeah, I mean, this was a shocker to me, but I wanted to speak just a few minutes on the influence that Carl Weathers had in my life, if you can call it influence. I mean, in terms of entertainment, he was, I mean, when I would watch the Rocky movies, Rocky 1, Rocky 2, and Rocky 3, he stood out. The movies were, the main person was, Rocky Balboa, but he stood out. Apollo Creed stood out to me. He was just this big, muscular, confident black dude, and it's like, back in them days, that was like really something for us black kids back then. Back then I was all into that, and that was really something for me, for a lot of blacks back then. And so he was a great inspiration. But one of the things also that I liked about Carl Weathers in the Rocky movies is that his likability was universal. I mean, I think everybody liked Carl Weathers, and he didn't push off this idea, even though that may have been talked about back then, not as much as it is now, at least from what I can understand and remember. But he didn't put off this idea that I'm black and I want you to recognize me as black and I'm oppressed and no one wants to pay me and I don't feel you. And I never got that aura from him. I believe he was loved by everyone, kind of like Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy was as black as they come, no offense, but you know what I'm talking about. He wasn't light skinned, he wasn't mixed, he was black, but he was loved by, Eddie Murphy was loved by everyone. He was universally loved. And the same situation with Carl Weathers. He was universally loved. I mean, even though in the Rocky movies, he was the nemesis, he was the opposer in Rocky films, no one hated him. The way he portrayed himself, I think that in terms of confidence, in terms of charisma, he had so much charisma that stood out. And everyone that watched the Rocky movies, whether he was white, black, or whether it did not matter, you love to see Carl Weathers. I mean, he was the opposer that you love to see. He was the opposer that you loved to hate, so to speak, which no one actually hated him. Now, as the article says, he did launch out on his own after the Rocky movies. He made Action Jackson, which, as the article says, was a modest success. It starred, I think it co-starred Vanity. And most of you that are that understand the 80s, you know who Vanity was. Very, very beautiful woman. She was another African-American actress. She was the Beyonce of the 80s, okay? But anyway, she co-starred with Carl Weathers in Action Jackson. And great movie. I loved it. Great movie. A lot of action. Carl Weathers stood out. But the movie was only a modest success, and I think the reason for that wasn't necessarily racial, I don't believe. I think it was more or less a matter that he was going against two juggernauts in the 80s. And you know what I'm about to say. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. And I don't think anyone who were action stars at that time, regardless of their racial ethnicity or whatever, could have competed with those two. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone were the 80s action icons, regardless. Everybody loved them. Everybody watched their movies. And it would have been extremely difficult to compete with those two. So I think that Action Jackson maybe one could argue that I think the producers jumped the guns too fast with Carl Weathers and put him out there. I think they maybe they should have given him a little more time, but I can understand why they went on and pushed and said, well, you know what, we want to go ahead and have him have his own film, because this guy is well loved by everyone. And he's physically fit. He's a great action star. And like I said, if you've never seen Action Jackson, check it out. It's a great movie. A lot of good action scenes in it. But like I said, you know, he was going against two juggernauts, okay? And in so many ways, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone were competing against each other, because they were the action icons of the 80s. So I think that's why Action Jackson did not get as much notoriety and make as much money as you know, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. But it wasn't because of his, in my opinion, it wasn't because of his race or anything like that. It was because of those issues. But at any rate, yeah, I mean, Carl Weathers, he was dear to a lot of people's hearts. And I would say in terms of Black history, he contributed, in my opinion, in terms of Black history and recognizing people for Black history, because I've oftentimes been criticized for not talking enough positive, you know, giving enough videos and positive videos on Black people. This is one of them, okay? What he contributed to the entertainment industry in terms of Blacks, if you want to attribute it primarily to Blacks, was confidence. He portrayed confidence and swagger, as the article says. He portrayed confidence and swagger in just about every movie he starred in. In the Rocky movies, he portrayed that same mentality. In Action Jackson, obviously, he was the lead character. He portrayed that mentality. In Predator, which was an excellent action movie, he betrayed that same kind of persona. Okay? And there's a scene in Action Jackson where Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers meet up again in the jungles, and they clap hands like this, and you can see the muscle in both of their hands. It's almost like they arm wrestling. I mean, that was an awesome scene, and the camera panned in on their arms locked together like this in a handshake, almost like a hand wrestling. And that was an awesome scene. An awesome scene. But same situation. Carl Weathers portrayed confidence and swagger and charisma even in Predator. He wasn't all weak and beggarly. He portrayed a lot of confidence. And I think that what he added to the movie industry in terms of African Americans or Black Americans, whichever one you want to call them, in terms of adding that to the Black entertainment industry, was that mentality, that aura of confidence, that aura of charisma. And you can kind of say you see some of that now, but back then it was just a matter of start. Carl Weathers had that it factor. Like I said, he didn't really rise up like, you know, he could have risen up in the 80s, because he was going against two juggernauts. Okay, who could have went up against them? I don't know. Nobody would have survived that. Like I said, but he had that charisma. He had that charisma. Today, you have a few Black actors that are like that, male and female, but not many. And oftentimes in today's action movies from Hollywood, it's almost as if they're pushing this blackness thing on you. They keep pushing the black thing on you, the black thing, the black thing. We Black and we hate white people. That's what they keep pushing in Hollywood movies in today. That's the aura or the flavor that I feel from them. And I personally detest that, because what you're doing is you're dividing the audience. Carl Weathers did not divide the audience. Everybody loved him. He had universal appeal. Why doesn't anybody understand that? Why is it a problem with so many people? It's like, man, come on. I ain't got time for that foolishness. You know what I said made sense. So just quit playing games and just admit, yeah, okay. Yeah. It makes sense because it's true, you know, at least the way I see it, to be honest with you, in my opinion. Let me burn down. In my opinion, that's essentially what it was all about. You know, a lot of the movies today, when they portray Black actors and Black actresses, is always with the idea they're Black. But it's almost as if they say they're Black. We want you to know, the audience, we want you to know that they're Black, and we want to emphasize that. When that's really foolish, in my opinion, because we all know that they're Black. We don't need the producers and the writers of the movie to portray them in their blackness. We don't need to hear all that. Just make a movie, entertain the audience, and go about your business. You don't have to push all that. And to be honest with you, start summing this video up, I don't think most black people that go to the movies really care about any of that. They're not going to the movies to see how, to see their blackness and their black pride and how, their uniqueness. That's not necessarily what they're looking at. They're looking at going to be entertained just like everybody else. And if this black actor or black actress can bring that out, if they have that charisma, if they have that confidence and they can bring that out, that's all that the black audience cares about, to be quite frank with you. Okay. In the 1970s, so-called blaxploitation films, the reason why I personally believe a lot of blacks swarmed, so to speak, to see these movies was because these characters in them were bigger than life. They were larger than life. They were in their own skin, but they were larger than life, and that's what it all comes down to. These characters in a lot of these films, blaxploitation films, had charisma, they had confidence, and that's what blacks in the 1970s wanted to really see. And it just helped that they were black. Today, I feel that black people on a subconscious level have overcome the idea that he has to be black. She has to be black. They have to push their blackness in the movies. I think they've overcome that, at least on a subconscious level. It's Hollywood and the producers and these woke producers and woke writers that keep pushing this divisive nonsense in the films. Carl Weathers, from what I can understand, from what I know and understand, never presented that image in the movies that I've seen with him. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to recognize this great man who has passed on at the age of 76. What do you guys think about Carl Weathers' passing? What do you think about him as a actor? And what do you think about him? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all, and see you again.